Reclaiming Timeless Ways, episode number 70, Mike.
Yes.
Hard to believe we've been rocking and rolling this long and still stuff to talk about. Or, wait a second, the waterfall will never run dry. There's always something to talk about in the world of...
He's telling me I'm full of it.
You know, it's funny, though. I do like to... In our last episode, I kind of framed it up, and I'll do it again in case you didn't see it. But it's an episode full of life happening, observations, and you know, what do I take away from that? What do I extract, and what can I give to you?
Right.
Some of it might have zero value to you today. Doesn't mean never, but today.
Yeah.
Some of it you might find incredibly enriching. But over 70 episodes, we hope we've given you a few nuggets. And today we're going to talk about another nugget. What is our topic?
It's the power of word of mouth.
Yeah, what we say. A lot of power in our words.
Right. Right. So, who do you like in the community? You know, you build somebody up. You say, you know, I think that guy's a good guy.
Right.
I got a neighbor, used to live across the street from me. Totally 100% good guy.
Yeah.
Just always helping other people. I don't know if we're supposed to name names here, even in the positive, so
You'll keep it at that.
I'll leave it. He's a very generous man. He's
Yeah.
Mid to late 70s, Vietnam vet, very religious, you know, devout, I would say, good family guy, amazing neighbor, quiet, doesn't want a bunch of compliments and praise,
Right.
just driven to be kind. Remarkable, just remarkable, you know. I think if they were giving out, you know, citizen awards, he'd get pissed off if they gave him one, but he deserves,
right.
he deserves one.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that, I don't want. So what did they do? Or what do they do, you know? What makes them of value, you know? So you say, well, they're compassionate, or they're fair, or they're helpful. You know, they have some sort of a charitable essence in them. What is it that they do that makes it better? You know, there was a mechanic I went to in Spokane about 25 years ago. And I'll never forget, he raised his rates to $20 or $25 an hour, and he profusely apologized.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're the best mechanic in town, and you're the cheapest. You fix everything on time the first time, perfectly. And I remember the last day I was there, I just drove in and he did a few things for me on the spur of the moment. I gave him like an extra 10 or 15 bucks, and he looks at me and he goes, what's this for? I said, I'm leaving, and it's a tiny little thank you. Everybody used to bring their old grandma to his shop.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't get treated wonderfully. If I came in, he'd swear at me, you effed up your car, look at this. You know.
Right.
It's wonderful, but it was all with camaraderie, you know.
Right.
But it was a father and son business, and they were excellent.
Sure.
They had this old beefed up station wagon that had a tow hook on it. And so they'd come and get you and bring you to their shop. And the fee for that was $0. And just remarkable. I don't think they're in business anymore. I think the grandpa died. I think the dad either died or retired. And I think the son went and did something else. Wonderful people, you know. So you get words and actions, and then there's reality. You know, you get a bunch of promises or implied promises, but do they have substance?
Right.
You know, and I remember reading about this dentist, and he would drill a tooth out, and he would drill so much more material out than he had to, that after he put the filling in, the outside of the tooth was so thin that the tooth would collapse.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would need a crown or a bridge. So $100 filling became $1,000 or more repair, you know. But we keep our mouths shut. We're trained to just don't say, just if you can't say something nice. Well, if I can't tell you that there's a doctor, a dentist, a chiropractor, a cop, a nurse, whoever, that's terrible, I'm steering you towards them. I'm hurting you,
Right.
right? Or a lawyer, or whatever.
Doing or saying nothing is something.
It is. It's an implied praise,
Right.
right? And
It certainly, at best, at least gives them a passing grade
It does.
by you saying nothing.
exactly.
Because certainly if they were failing, you'd let me know, right?
Absolutely. Oh, I would.
You would, but I mean, should.
Right. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell people briefly, I was disappointed in them because they charged me a horrendous amount of labor, or the quote that they gave me was double the next guy's quote. And when I asked around, everybody said, yeah, they think their crap is gold. And you're like, oh, so it's not just that they're a million times better. No, they're just hungry. They're hungry, which is a synonym for greedy,
Right.
right? So when you're praising somebody or when you're criticizing them, brevity is important, because the more you trash them, the less credible you sound.
Sure.
You sound like you just got an axe to grind.
Correct.
And then people go, man, he's grumpy,
Right.
So, if you say something like, well, personally, I would not send my kid there. That's enough,
Right.
right? Or my parents, or my brother or sister, I don't feel like that's the safest place, And you can punctuate that by saying, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you've said enough.
Right.
Because among other things, you don't want to get sued.
It's very true.
Yeah,
It's interesting, and it's been some years ago, in my earlier stage of the management ownership world. Saw some class, took some class, I forget, it doesn't matter, but I heard it from some professional as to the hiring process. If you get to that point on the resume where it says, references,
right.
and you call them, oftentimes you're not going to hear something negative. First off, the applicant probably wouldn't put somebody on there that would be honest in a negative way towards them. That wouldn't be a very good move.
Right.
But the caution was also on the flip side. If somebody leaves your company and somebody calls you for a reference, by you saying something, maybe truthful,
Right.
but that hurt their ability to get a job, you could and get sued, and most likely you would lose the case. And it was a very interesting, so they said their take was, if I were looking at them again, I probably wouldn't hire them.
Right.
Something simple, nothing more than that.
Right.
And they even said there you tread water lightly. It goes back to kind of what you were saying, which is also a little bit of a trap and a little scary here, is almost shut up, Simon, you don't get to say something. Wait a second.
Right.
If they stole supplies from my company or were late how many times a week or partying and I shouldn't be able to tell somebody that? No.
Right. One of my uncles owned a dress company.
Yeah.
Him and like 4 guys that were in the garment industry as employees of big companies, they each had their own expertise.
Right.
And my uncle was a designer. Somebody else was a salesman. Somebody else, I don't know. They all had different jobs. And they started having money issues with inventory. Turns out that the cutter, the guy that cut the fabric, was stealing fabric and reselling it. And back in the 1960s, he stole, if I remember right, it was like $24,000 worth of fabric.
Sizable amount.
So my uncle, had recorded all this. He had evidence, right? And he took the guy aside, probably with his partners, and said, we know what you've done. We don't want to harm you. So we're going to release you, but we're going to give you a neutral reference, and you have to repay us. But we don't want to hurt your ability to find work, but you should not do this ever again. And he let the guy go and repay it. I'm sure it took him years, because that has to be like what, a third of what it would be today?
Probably,
You know?
yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember in '69, my dad paid $3,700 for a full-size Ford Galaxy loaded. What would that be today? 25, 30 grand? Maybe?
Oh, easy.
Easy.
That's low end, that's not loaded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this was a gorgeous car. So he gave the guy a new lease on life, and he didn't do anything to his reputation.
No.
But I know I confronted some stuff going on in a nursing home where they were letting patients smoke in bed. In a big old wood frame building, old. Place could have gone up like a Roman candle. And I made a complaint about it. They had a blacklist. And I was on a date with somebody once. This was after my divorce and after the wreck. And she said to me, "You're blacklisted." She said, "You're not going to have a very easy time finding a job in this town. You pissed somebody off." And she said, "If you ever bring this up in court, I'll deny I said it. But there is a blacklist. Most of the nursing directors have a copy, and you're on it." Wow. Imagine that. I had reported them to the fire department,
Yeah.
who I don't think they did anything, you know. They were all in bed with each other, you know. But it was, so, I think a good way around it is to tell somebody, look, I'll give you a list of 3 people I would go to. I don't think this one's going to be on that list.
When you said brevity, I just think honest,
Right,
short, sweet, honest.
right,
What our words have a lot of power, Mike.
They do.
Or lack thereof.
right.
And what you're ultimately saying, I sell advertising. I can't tell you how many times I've heard the line word of mouth advertising. Same concept here. It is the most powerful. Why?
Right.
Because oftentimes it's from somebody you trust, right?
Right.
If a friend tells me, this is a good place to get a steak, or this is a good place to get my car fixed, in your earlier example,
Right.
I trust my friend,
Right.
and I trust their judgment. So when somebody leans on you for that trust, you're betraying them by not being honest.
Absolutely.
But you also have to be careful in your honesty. I wouldn't take my vehicle there. I wouldn't go eat there.
Right,
If they say why, well, my experience just wasn't that great.
right, yeah.
It doesn't have to be any more than that, but it is up
No.
to us. It's almost a duty to be honest, Mike.
It's what?
Our duty, in many respects, to be honest.
That's the point.
Yeah.
It is the point, I remember there was this guy, this was in Oregon, little guy who was always bragging about having had a degree from engineering at MIT. And this gal comes in, her car, the red light goes on the oil, right? So he tells her that the engine has to be disassembled and inspected and then either rebuilt or reassembled, right? So this is 18 years ago. Charged her $900 to do this. There was nothing wrong with the engine that a flush wouldn't have taken care of. There was a screen underneath the oil pump and it was clogged. You could have just put a very harsh chemical in there, a solvent that's used to clean engines, and 1 or 2 flushes, it would have been functioning properly.
Right.
That would have cost $40, right? $900. She worked for $8-9 an hour in a movie theater. He hosed her,
Yeah.
And I remember I had a problem with my engine having no power, and I said, I've only got $50 on me. This is like 18 years ago. Can you diagnose this? That's all I want. Oh, yeah, I guess. So he tells me, needs a new carburetor. So I rebuilt the carburetor. Wasn't the problem. The problem, so he took his $50. The problem was I had a completely plugged catalytic converter. Well, guess how many people I sent his way,
Yeah.
right? So,
Words have power, the power of word of mouth.
He was a weasel,
Yeah.
you know?
Thing is, Mike, you're usually pretty honest.
Yeah,
Some of us struggle in that department.
yeah, it's true.
We don't want to get blacklisted.
No, we don't,
So who are we protecting there?
ourselves, you know? But
That's
then,
the thought.
right, but if I don't tell you the truth, and I let you go off in a dangerous direction, how much truth do you owe me after that?
Right.
How you gonna get out on the limb for me after I betrayed your trust with silence?
Right. Something to meditate on. Powerful stuff, tough stuff.
Right.
That can be tough at times.
Yeah. So now,
Fork in the road in some situations.
What-
Sometimes it's easy to be truthful in a negative way about somebody. Sometimes it's not so easy.
true,
It can be a fork in the road, but you owe it to, like you said, yourself and one another.
yeah.
We'll let you meditate on that.
Oh, I
Wish
gotta-
you a great day, and
My
thank
rit-
you for
my
joining us
ritual.
for reclaiming timeless ways. Have a great day.
Okay.